Hello everyone, it's Alisha Brasher here at Cosmic Gateway. Hope you're doing well. This is the energy update for the second part of October 2019. So thank you all for listening. Here, as you can see, I have changed formats. Um, and this is actually the second record, as I just recorded 26 minutes and then accidentally deleted it. So bear with me. Hopefully I can make this probably a little bit more condensed. I've written down some notes so I don't leave anything out. So, first of all, just to acknowledge some of the changes at the moment, and the reason for that at the moment, I have been very strongly guided to kind of pull back a little bit and sort of reserve my energy for myself and just for my clients. So that this is a solution that I came up with, that I can still record some updates and do a few things here and there as I feel called to, without actually being on video. So it's working really well, and actually I'm really enjoying it. So I guess just one thing that a couple of quick announcements before I get into doing the update, is obviously, some of you may or may not be aware, but I have Scott, who is helping me now on Cosmic Gateway, who's working on the social media accounts, especially Facebook. So some of you have probably already got to know him and seen his comments. So thank you, Scott, and welcome. And also, just so you guys are aware, because obviously it can be a little bit confusing if I post that I'm, not sort of, if I'm going into my cave or hermiting, and then there's a post on Cosmic Gateway a few hours later. So there is two of us that are running it now, and so we're working out how to kind of move forward, putting our names and initials. So, but that's, relatively insignificant. The other thing is, I just want to let people just be aware that I'm, in terms of pulling back and just being asked to keep my energy as clear as possible. I may not be responding to messages in a usual time frame. As most of you know, I'm pretty responsive, so it may take me a little longer to respond to any messages, or the length of them may not be as detailed as I usually would. And just to be aware, I don't necessarily feel the need to go into that in each message. So I just thought this would be a really good way to put that message out there and let people know just where I'm at, and just to be, I guess, mindful of my own process as I'm being called to pull back for now. As I say, for now, I don't know how long. It could be a couple of days, could be a couple of weeks, who knows. So it's just nice that I can be here and still record something and connect with you all. So, where to begin? Let's go into, well, first of all, let's talk about, actually, I'm going to change, I'm going to flip it backwards. So let's talk about the massive personal shifts and transformations that are happening to so many of us so much quicker. It's very accelerated at the moment, and it has been increasingly that way for quite some time. But I just reflect on what I've been through in just the last 2 weeks alone, which is absolutely some of the biggest, processes and shifts I've been through in my entire life. And very different. If I look back, say a week, over a fortnight ago, where there was a lot of energy coming in, it was really high, and I was really guided to do as many videos as possible. And it's the complete opposite now, So, everything's such in change, in flux, and just for myself and for all of you to just do as best as you can, in moment to moment, because it's very, very changing and fluid, and nothing kind of stays the same. And so kind of what I've noticed. There's many things that I've noticed through sessions and through my own experience and observation, and just the people that I'm connected with, and just feeling into it is there's a lot of things. And I know for me it was really high, a really big surrender, and a lot of love and bliss. And then lastly, leading into that full moon in Aries, I tell you what, that was just full on. So I and a lot of us who go into a similar space as what I do, um, it was really a sliding scale between rage, full rage and anger, and just being misunderstood and frustrations, to like a really kind of masculine rah, tiger lion energy, and then from there just a bawling mess of tears, and huge emotional outpour. And it was a sliding scale that just went back and forth, and there was no in between. I felt like I was literally in a washing machine for like 4 or 5 days. And that's now led me into a place where I'm exhausted. I'm completely exhausted, and I'm needing to sleep a lot. But I'll talk about that in a second, because I know that some of the other themes that were coming up quite prevalent for some of you who may still be going through it. And that was like feeling the isolation, the loneliness, maybe loneliness, or abandonment, or feeling like you want to go home, and just a general lack of support, or burdened by responsibilities and feeling like you have to do everything. I know, I had a few bouts of that, like I could feel that, rising within me over the weekend, and it was pretty phenomenal how I just observed it, I let it out, I acknowledged it, and very, very quickly, in quite unexpected ways, people just gathered around to help support me in this transition that I'm going through. And first of all, acknowledgement and thank you to all those people. You know who you are. I don't have to name you. This is just beautiful for me. It's just this, even in challenging times and in the face of uncertainty, it's really beautiful to feel this being held and loved and supported through soul family. And I think I say that in a general sense, is that this coming together of souls, because it's time, So just massive thank you to all of you. um, so what, as I mentioned, I'm I'm needing to sleep and meditate a lot at the moment, and kind of enjoying it, to be honest. I don't often have a lot of downtime. I'm kind of on the go all the time, and I'm being knocked out, for solid, 8, 9, 10 hours at night, and also during the day. I'll feel tired and I'll be knocked out for hours. And so there's a lot to be said about that, because I know that we go in waves. Like there's a few groups of us and we kind of tag team, because I know as I say this, there would be a lot of you out there who would be experiencing the complete opposite to me. And I think that we just it's how we keep things in balance, right, on the planet. It's a big operation, and we kind of tag team on the way through, is how I always like to look at it. But just to talk about this feeling of when you go through needing to sleep and rest a whole lot more. Also, what can come up is the physical body. Now, I know a lot of people have been dealing with health concerns. I currently have my feet elevated and don't have a lot of mobility at the moment. And that's relatively minor, but I know that there's a lot of people who I've spoken to have had sort of health scares or diagnosis that seems to be something that's coming up, and a lot of people facing mortality, whether it's people, loved ones passing away or being terminally ill or just in their own process. They are themes that are quite prevalent at the moment. And it's like what initiations and not issues, themes that are coming up for us to move through in our own self-mastery are really digging quite deep. They're not just like small, insignificant. They are quite life-changing. And I say that in good and bad ways. And there is no judgment. There is no good or bad, depending on how you look at it. It's all helping us evolve and grow. But from a human level, it's really challenging out there for a lot of people. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Because it's tough, but it's brutal sometimes. But you're all, to put it into perspective, we're all doing amazing work, and we are all here for a very important reason. And it's kind of magnificent when you can look back and see it in that way. So, going back to, when you are in those times of resting and recuperating, there's this sense of feeling like you're half operating in the physical vessel, right? It's like you're not all there. And I'm sure I've talked about this before, but I see this as a two-part process because it's really predominant at the moment. And I think it will help a lot of people. It's been coming up a lot in my sessions. And very excitingly so, my work has started to significantly change in the last month, which is really helping people do much more of this kind of higher self physical body integration work. Which obviously we're all going through, and it can be really hard to make sense of it while you're going through it. So I just wanted to touch on this a little bit, is that while we're going through that feeling of needing more sleep, and some of the symptoms that can come with that is feeling really tapped out, feeling very, depressed, or just not wanting to bother with anything, disengaged. So I see that as a two-part process. There's a deeper, higher self-integration that's taking place, and our body has to, catch up. And I say that because I think every time we go through that phase, I think there's a deeper level of integration that happens each time. I certainly know that from my own experience, because even though I'm going through it, it's very different to what it was in the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year was just feeling tapped out and with a whole heap of confusion, where this time I'm tapped out in the sense of just physically exhausted, but I'm very aware and tapped in psychically and intuitively, and I'm well aware of the process that I'm in. And I think the other part is the soul galactic mission, if you will, for some, because I know for me, every time I go into dream space or every time I'm asleep, I have very little recall of where I'm going and what I'm doing, although there is an awareness that I was doing something that has a feeling of importance to it. And each time I go back asleep, there's a sense that I'm going back to the same or similar scenario or place. And I know that has come through a lot in my sessions, that there are, we're all very important to this ascension process, and we do so much on higher dimensional levels. And so while there's a greater portion of our consciousness that is doing that, the physical vessel is going to feel a little less full of energy and vibrancy and connectedness. So, there are so many of us doing this important work that we often don't have that recall of. There's definitely a lot of that happening at the moment. What else? Some of the biggest news, of course, the Schumann Resonance website has been down. So really interesting. I mean, we can look at it from, is this part of a censorship? Probably. Is this because they don't want us to see what's actually happening? I think there's been the strongest energy I've ever felt coming through over the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks, and it just seems to be continuing. at different frequencies, and it's giving different output in terms of how it affects us. So it's reaching this new level of understanding that's going on. And also there's that, aspect of to see how far we've all come, and the fact that we don't need to be so reliant on Schumann graphs or external validation, if you will. We're kind of really got to a good place where we're fine-tuned enough to have an awareness that what our body is asking for and what's happening. Although, having said that, I love the Schumann. I love watching the Schumann, for just to see what's going on and making the correlations. I enjoy it, but I certainly didn't panic, let's say, when it wasn't out. I was more amused by it, as I'm sure most of you were. And so, that's really interesting to see where we're going. It feels like from now onwards into the first quarter of next year feels like some really important, I don't even know the words to say it. It's an important time of mass awakenings, and everyone kind of stepping into their next level of octave or role. Really, in essence, I think that's what it comes down to. I feel as though there is, it could be two timelines. I'm calling it that, but it could be the same one or different variations of what people will experience. Probably more to be honest, it's probably more accurate. But there's this feeling that there's something really big on the horizon, and every time I say that, I just see like the sun energy just blasting, this really bright energy. And of course, that will affect people in different ways, depending on where you're at and where your energy is at. For some people, it could put them in a blissed out state. For other people, it could completely knock them out. So they need to lay down and integrate that energy and rest. For other people, it could bring up a lot of gunk to the surface to be healed and resolved. So, there's that, and there's also this period of, I was calling it period of darkness before, but I think I want to change the word because it's definitely nothing to fear. And I'll explain what I mean by that is this period, which could be, feels like this slight passageway where there will be mass awakenings for people who haven't hit that point yet on the planet. And I think it will be quite abrupt and jarring. And if you take yourself back to recalling your own awakening, and it can be quite dark, when you realize that so many things that you thought were true aren't, and you've been fed lies. And, there's a lot of anger and stuff to work through in the beginning stages. So basically the message that came through to me about a year ago, and it's been kind of in the back of my mind now for a week, is that when we hit that point, and those points could go hand in hand, it's like all boots on the ground, all hands on deck, because those who have attained a certain level of mastery in whatever facet or role, they probably will need to assist a large amount of people who, I think on a soul level, we're almost designated to those people, assigned, there's such intricate woven tapestry of this ascension process when you can see it from the bigger picture. And of course, none of us can fully comprehend it. It's massive. But I guess this is just I just wanted to put this out there. If you are feeling the call, feeling the same way, just to, if you're a healer, if you're, a way shower in your own way, just to kind of have that readiness, because it feels like there's this real push of urgency that I've been feeling. It's like being pushed on me for a few weeks now, like getting things in place, getting things in order, making sure everyone's ready to, be, taking care of themselves to be where they need to be to help other people. That's kind of been a big theme of mine for a while now, and that's, you know, one of the reasons I started doing the Lightworkers Call to Duty program was because of that feeling, and it's still there, you know, and it will continue to be, no doubt. But just wanted to talk about that a little bit. What else? I think I've covered most of it. The other thing is I'm going to put a link to, in the description box, I'm going to put a link to Greg Prescott's latest YouTube video where he talks a little bit about the Schumann going down. And, you know, this two-part reason, once again, you know, if you don't know Greg Prescott, you know, go and follow him on social media. He runs in5d.com, and, you know, I respect Greg a lot. I think he's one of, like, I see him as one of the pillars of the spiritual community. He's been doing this work for a long time, and I really respect the work that he does in getting information out there. So I'll put that if you want to go and have a look. But the other reason that I bring this up is because he's been through a really kind of rough time with his health. He talks about it in the video, so you can go and watch it. But support and donations are so important. So I say this for Greg because, you know, he's had to rely on a lot, and he's very, you know, it's great that so many people have jumped in to support him as much as they are able to while he goes through this time. And that goes for a lot of us. And, you know, I guess just I guess what I want to say is thank you to all the people who support my work and support me through Cosmic Gateway through the various forms, through donations to the tip jar, my PayPal link that I put, you know, in the description box of each video. Thank you for everyone who has donated in the past. Thank you for all my clients who book sessions, or people who purchase things off the website. It's because of you that I've been able to do and continue doing this work, and I don't think that it's spoken about enough. Making the transition, as some of you will know, you know, making that transition from like the 3D matrix kind of world of job to self-employed doing this work is not easy. And, you know, through that transition, it's adjusting to so many different variables rather than just running a business. And I know for me, in that process, I kind of lost everything to rebuild. And I'm incredibly grateful for that process. I think through that process, I learned more about myself and about, you know, life, and and then I could have not having that, but it was not fun and it was not comfortable. And if you need to hear this right now, I think it's an ultimate test to faith that we are looked after, and that we do have our basic needs provided for, even when it comes down to the wire. You know, that's, at least that's what I learned. That's what I took away from that situation in my life. And, you know, still doing this work, you know, it ebbs and flows depending on my energy levels too. And I know that with a lot of practitioners, that if we're in a bit of a process, our work kind of temporarily goes on hold and then when we're good, it flows again. And that's also very unnerving when you don't understand it, you know, until you kind of see and go, oh, that's why, you know. So, you know, just wanted to thank everyone, you know, for your support and your love and you know, just being here. I really, really love and appreciate every single one of you. So, in saying that, I am still taking sessions. So if you feel that you need extra support or guidance, please feel free to connect with me and book a session. And thank you for your flexibility, for those who have been flexible with me over the last week as I've had to kind of reschedule. But I'm just plodding along right now at a very snail-like pace, but still getting stuff done. So Finally, I'm just trying to check that I think I've covered everything. Finally, let's get into the intuitive insights for the second week of October. I'm very, very curious to see what comes through. So you've probably already seen it, the images of the artwork of the cards to choose on the thumbnail of this video. So tune in to, whether it's A, B, or C, and choose that, and there will be the individual links to each of those videos. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're all doing as well as you can, riding these massive waves. I love you all. Mwah. I'll connect with you soon. Bye.